marry me?
Donna Dixon, who plays the female lead in this spy caper, is the real-life wife of Dan Aykroyd. A former medical student, she's known for the comedy series Bosom Buddies and the recent series Berringers. I asked her whether she'd been serious about her medical career.
Didn't you?
Absolutely. I started out as an anthropology major, actually, and concerned my parents greatly because they thought I was going to be the next Margaret Mead. I found myself living in South America in a village where I was surrounded by poverty. And I think it was my second year of college that I took a course in developmental psychology and did my thesis on a birth of a child. I got permission from the mother and went actually into the operating room and took pictures step by step of a cesarean section, tubal ligation. And from that point on, I decided that I was going to switch my career. I mean, I've always had an obsession with children. I mean, it started when my little sister was born and I thought she was my baby. And I've worked with children throughout my life, mentally retarded children, so on. But when I was in college, I was modeling for a means of income. And while I was doing that, I had offers from New York. And anything that I've ever done in my life, I've always wondered if I could do it to the best of my ability and be at the top of my field. So I decided that I would go to New York only for a season. And I found myself enjoying an aspect of my life and being very successful. So I decided that I would stay because I knew that I could always go back to school, which I did. In fact, I took a class at Kingston last year in Canada at the university in abnormal psychology. My husband was writing a script, and I thought that would be a perfect opportunity to go back to school, which I did.
Your husband, of course, is a Canadian.
Yes, he is.
Born in Kingston.
Yes.
Well, that's something that I didn't know. And he's obviously involved in the same business too, then?
Yes, he's a writer and an actor.
And your father was an army officer, and you lived a period in Europe.
Yes, I was born in Alexandria, Virginia, raised in Europe, and educated in Virginia. Moved to New York for 2 years, and now I've been in California for the past 5 years.
And now you find yourself in this crazy picture, traveling all over the rest of the world. I'm sure you've been
Isn't
in places
it wonderful?
that you have never been before.
You are absolutely right. This film took us to London. That was our home base. So we lived there for 5 months, and it was wonderful because I didn't feel like a tourist. I was actually living there. And we went to Sogndal, Norway, which was one of the most beautiful countries I've ever been to. We rented a home right on a fjord. A great Viking battle took place in my front yard. From there, we went to Ouarzazate, which is in Morocco, which is, believe me, is not where it's at. I found it to be a God-forsaken country, land, that is. We're in the middle of the Sahara Desert, and we were very isolated. But we went from one world into another. It was one of the greatest experiences of my lifetime and one that I'll take with me forever.
Oh, I really envy you. I envy you, but I think when you started out, you must have felt a little bit intimidated going with this zany group of Saturday Night Live graduates, Second City. How did you feel? Did you feel as though they were going to be difficult to work with?
Well, actually, not at all. I wasn't intimidated at all because my husband is a comedian. And he's from Saturday Night Live. And all his friends are his peers, which of course they are mine also. I take care of them. In fact, Chevy Chase, his wife, had just had a baby. He had to leave his family. It was very difficult for him. And so my husband and I adopted him while we were away.
Well, you said you love children.
I do love children, and they are my children. And so it was really perfect for the role because Karen Boyer had to be very strong, and she could not be intimidated by these men. If anything, they had to be intimidated by her. Well, I've lived with these men. I've played with these men. And needless to say, I wasn't intimidated at all.
When you were working with them, Karen, and there was a lot of chemistry.
Yes.
And, of course, Chevy Chase is I suppose, men would fantasize pursuing you in any circumstances. But with Chevy doing it, he's so totally inept it makes it all seem quite believable.
Absolutely, absolutely. Well, Chevy is actually very shy, which is so wonderful because he's so handsome, so witty, talented, athletic. He has everything, and yet he's so shy. In fact, in the film, we had a screen kiss, and we both were a little nervous about it. And, but he was extremely nervous, I must say. And there was one scene that was very delicate. I'm sure you know the scene that I'm talking about. And we were very nervous about that. But I realized to play that scene that the only way that it would work is with the utmost of dignity, and that's how I had to play it. But it was wonderful being Chevy's love interest. It was a lot of fun.
This will verify.